I bet you already know that leadership plays a really important role in making organizational change happen. But did you know that that role stretches far beyond simply introducing the change and then telling everybody what they need to do to make the change a success? Well, pulling from my work with thousands of Fortune 100 leaders all over the world, I want to shine some light on the most critical facets of the role that leadership plays in successfully achieving an organizational change. And understanding these facets can significantly decrease the risk of leadership destroying employee morale when going through change. You ready to hear it? Let's get it. Going through organizational change or leadership shuffle can be tough. It can be rough. It can almost feel like your world has gotten turned upside down. These changes might shift around who you're working with, who you're working for, or who reports into you. And the role that leadership plays in making these changes happen and happen successfully is very important and multifaceted. Well, by the end of this video, you're going to understand the 5 critical facets that leadership plays when going through organizational change. Leadership acts as architects of change. Leadership acts as active participants in the communication network. Leadership truly acts as a support system. Leadership becomes role models. And finally, leadership is a significant source of inspiration. Leadership as architects of the change. Though leadership isn't always the brainchild behind a given change in an organization, they certainly help to create the structure behind the change that needs to happen. Working across functions, working across different organizations and teams to really devise a plan and to architect the structure and the necessary changes. This work should include all the steps that are required and across every function, organization, or team to go from the current state to the desired end state. Now, the other role that leadership plays as the architects or maybe even co-architects of a given change is to understand the complexities and the challenges that might be encountered as you're working through the actions to make the change happen. It's so important that leadership does understand what those challenges or complexities could be so that there can be mitigation plans, contingencies in place that might have to get triggered as you move through the journey. Leadership as active participants in your communication network. You know, when we're going through change, especially the type of change where there's a lot of resource shuffling and it feels like the world is being turned upside down, typically there are far more questions than answers, especially the deeper you get into the organization. And where there is unknown, anxiety thrives. It runs rampant. And in order to help kind of quell or mitigate that anxiety and help keep employees engaged and motivated, communication is so critical. You know, my company, Change Enthusiasm Global, we decided to partner with a leading research institute called CGK to understand the status of change and emotion in the workplace. And we found the #1 strategy that leadership can implement in order to help motivate and engage employees going through challenging change journeys is around regular and clear communication. It is so important, and leadership plays a massive role in that communication network. So ensuring that the information is being dispersed and that there's a regular drumbeat of some type of communication strategy. And you're sending that out even if there's no new news to share. When employees can count on a communication network or a communication going out every week, then that's something that they can expect. You're creating a known when you present that communication strategy. And that's an important role that leadership plays. By the way, if you're getting value from this, if you're digging it, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you can be sure to get fresh content, hit your inbox, get notified. I make videos like this all the time. The intent is to bring you value. So if you're digging it, like, subscribe, notification bell. Make sure you get that and you'll be one of the first. Leadership as a support system. You know, when we're going through really big organizational change, it's so important that leadership understand the role that they play as a support system to the organization. Now, that looks like empathetic leadership, right? Holding space, listening to those employees that might be having challenges going through the change or making the change happen. Holding that space, understanding how they can support them through that change. And it can be so powerful when we share empathy with our employees, because by hearing what they're challenged by, we might get ideas on how we can re-architect or change the way the change is being implemented to help ease some of that tension. Again, thinking about those complexities and the challenges that employees might be experiencing. Now, that gets me to the other part of being that support system. It's all around facilitating those help requests, right? So as you're holding space for employees, they're sharing what's working, what's not working, making sure that you are that support system, really addressing those action items, those help requests that you're getting from your team members, that you're getting from employees. The worst thing that you can do is to hold that space, ask what you can do to support, they voice it, and then nothing happens. Because you lose that one ingredient that's so important to keep a team motivated through this type of change, and that is trust. So make sure if you're asking the question, you're following up and you're actually delivering. Such an important role of leadership. Now, the last part of thinking about leadership as a support system is busting barriers, right? You're going to be communicating certain expectations, what's going to be required of your team in order to make the change successful. And they might encounter barriers. They might encounter some challenges, some things that need your help that they don't really have the power to do successfully. And they're going to come to you with that help request. So as a leader, it's so important that you're busting those barriers for your employees, for your teams, for the workforce. Leadership as role models. This is maybe one of the most important facets that leaders play when going through organizational change. I remember when I was working with one organization, and I did one of their big, huge client conferences. And they had some senior executives on the stage from Southwest. They were going through huge transformation, really big change. And one of the leaders talked about kind of the strategies that he's employed or what he's wished was different when moving through this transformation. It was a multi-billion-dollar transformation. And he said that he was tired of having executive sponsors. He wanted executive participants. He wanted executive examples, folks that are going to show up and role model the behavior and the different, ways that change needed to be embodied. That's what he was looking for in his executives and his leaders. It's so critical to embrace this facet of a role model, exemplifying what it means to embrace the change, to show up and see how this change is working for them to continue to motivate the organization. As a leader in an organization, you're a role model whether you like it or not. So regardless of what those actions are, you're role modeling something. And so it's important that you're mindful of what that is so that whatever you're role modeling is actually what you want to see in the organization. And this role cannot be understated, especially when you're going through change, because this is often changing habits and changing behavior. So exemplify that behavior that you want to exist in that desired end state. Leadership as a source of inspiration. I love this one. I love it. So often when we're going through change and leaders are already acting as role models, but they also can inspire individuals to engage and become motivated to move the change forward. And one of the most compelling and powerful ways that leaders can inspire is by showing confident vulnerability. Now, I know that as leaders, we can often shy away from the idea of being vulnerable, if I can get the word out, because we don't want to seem weak. We don't want to seem like we don't have all the right answers. We want to show up strong for our organization. But when you're going through change, especially the kind of change that invites those really difficult emotions like anxiety and frustration, when you yourself can share that you've experienced some of those emotions, but it's rooted in the belief and trust of the mission and the vision, the direction that you're going, it's almost like you create this conduit. You grant permission for the workforce to share their emotions as well, allowing those emotions to flow. And so that energy can start working for you, moving towards that change vision, as opposed to working against you and really moving the workforce backwards, fueling the resistance, moving away from your change success. So as a leader, embrace this facet of being a key inspiration for your workforce. And there's nothing more inspirational than having a bit of vulnerability, allowing all of yourself, your full authentic self, to be present in the work. You don't always have to have all the right answers. Get honest, be genuine, but just reinforce the trust that you have in the vision and the mission and direction that you're going. Best part of this video, something free. So if you're digging this content, I actually have something free for you. I want to offer a snippet of a keynote recording, a keynote that I delivered to a group of executives going through significant structure change internally, as well as dealing with a lot of changes happening to their industry. And it was my insights pulled from not only work with clients all over the world, but also research that we've done recently with a leading research institute. And I want to share these insights, this keynote recording, with you for free. All you gotta do is click the link below. I wanna make sure that you have the data, the insights, and the research to be successful and growing through change. I'm Cassandra Worthy, and until we meet again, keep growing and keep rocking.